I'm going to close this out. We can get started. Cool. All right. Stream is working. Are you seeing? Oh, it's doing speaker view.
What do you mean?
Oh, no, never mind. It's working. Just kind of it's backwards. All right. So our first live stream attempt here. Haven't really done it yet. I kind of hate live streaming, but it is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I've
never done it. This is my first time streaming live.
Wow. You're losing your
yeah, this is me popping my
cherry.
Popping my cherry right now.
Popping your cherry. I thought that happened on
35.
horseback.
It did happen with Shandy, and now it's happening with a Jew.
Yeah. God, losing your cherry with the Jew. We all can have goals in life. All right. You ready?
Yes.
Good evening. Welcome to Sick and Wrong, the world source for antisocial commentary. I'm one of your hosts, Dee Simon.
Hello, I'm Kate Rambo.
What's cracking there, Kate Rambo?
It's cold here, man. It's cold, and I hurt my leg this week.
Ooh, really? And did you slip on the ice or something?
No, I'm not that old.
Snow there?
It has been snowing. It's been very icy. No, I hurt it at work. So I've been in a very bad mood. And then because my leg's hurting, so then I'm drinking more whiskey. So
do you have a cane?
I'm not a leg mental.
You should get a cane.
I actually do have a cane, but it's for ornamental purposes.
So wait, if you did it at work, do you get workman's comp?
No, because it's just a hazard of the job. So I work a physical job. This shit happens.
Yeah, but if let's say you got your fucking, I don't know, leg cut off, like would they pay for the peg leg?
Yes, they would then pay for that, and I would obviously never be allowed back in the company. I would try and sue. Do you know what? A few years back, I cut my hand at work, and I wasn't wearing gloves, and I had to go and get a stitch. And I was like, I could sue, but I also can't be asked, so I didn't. But now I regret that.
But you guys don't. England isn't like a sue-happy culture like the U.S.
We're not Yankees.
We would sue our fucking landlords if we stumbled over the steps, as walking outside.
You bunch of pussies.
But I mean, we're a sue-happy culture. So if anybody, especially when I used to, we were working at an industrial supply company, anybody hurt themselves at all, they'd be like, "Oh, workman's comp as long as you need," because they were so nervous about getting sued. So you could be like, "I'll take a month off, fully paid." Or maybe it's 80% of the pay.
Yeah, doesn't work like that here.
Oh man.
But I mean, I could have sued the company when I cut my hand because I hadn't been provided with PPE. So I had
safety gear, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a totally big case. But this time was just, a hazard of the job. It happens every so often.
You got to be like a UK soccer player, like when they fall down and just be like, acting like it's the worst injury in the world.
I love it when they come onto they run onto the pitch with the bucket and the mop. Like, what's that gonna do?
I just like they're rolling around in anguish, just like I'm so injured, and it's like, oh come on, dude, he tripped over a shoelace.
Like, my leg is hurt. My leg is hurted this week.
We'll get some painkillers there, Kate.
Well, I have. I've been on the whiskey, and it's getting better now. I'm fine.
Yeah,
getting better.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but this past week, an old white man replaced an old orange man as president of the United States.
I didn't actually notice. No, it's not been in the news over here at all.
Thoroughly disappointed with that inauguration. I had high hopes, I had high hopes, and instead, what do we get? Fucking Lady Gaga. Like, really? Lady Gaga. No assassinations, no uprising, no revolts, no satanic pedophiles. It was just such a fucking letdown. I was bummed.
I'm very sorry for you.
I got to say, though, I'm loving the Bernie mitten memes.
I'm over them. I'm bored of them now.
Are you bored of it now?
Right. This is meme culture, isn't it? I mean, you've got a grace period of 24 hours. Go wild in those 24 hours, but then after that, you're thoroughly bored of them. And
I guess I did like it at first, like when it first came out, because it just sort of hit the internet, like
that's what the memes do.
Yeah. Just sort of hit the internet in a massive wave, and just like people going all crazy with it. I guess I'm a little bored of it now.
I'm bored of it. Yeah, but let's move on.
Do you think Bernie hates the internet? Because they don't support him and his political aspirations, but they love to fucking make fun of him.
Love him and his mittens. I don't.
They're not making fun of him. They're not ridiculing him. They just love to celebrate him.
I don't think Bernie, seeing as he is older than dinosaurs, probably even knows how to turn a computer on.
I'm sure he can use. I'm sure he has a
he has an
smartphone.
Assistant. He has an assistant who will turn the computer on and show him the memes. He has an assistant who will probably show him the smartphone. The man can remember when time was invented. He does not know how a computer works.
I thought it was funny. He was on like I don't know, one of the late night shows, and they're explaining to him like what a meme. Like, you're a meme again, and he's like, "Oh, I know." I don't think he fully grasps the concept of meme, but I mean, who does?
It's like how Danzig hates memes as well.
Yeah, same deal. They're like what, close to the same age.
Yeah, Danzig had to turn a computer on.
So I think my favorite thing about Joe Biden being sworn in as president is just the depression and confusion and disconsolation of the QAnon followers who finally saw that their hope for the storm, when President Trump was supposed to bring down the deep state and expose the satanic child sex trafficking ring, they saw their hope just dissipate into nothingness, leaving all the followers right now are just in despair, searching for answers. They're confused. They're lost. They want to know, like, what's going to happen next? Like, what do we do now? Because they've been waiting this whole time, the past 4 years, culminating in this moment that Trump's just going to, like, they really did. I mean, they really thought that Trump was going to come in and just like usher in the storm in the deep state and assume control of the presidency with martial law or whatever it was. And it just didn't happen, I mean,
it's like their mum and dad got divorced on Christmas Day. It's all over for them, having little cries. I bet they're all so sad right now.
Ron Watkins, who's the founder of 8chan, which is a very important website. The founder of 8chan, they think he might be Q, the anonymous Q. After Biden was sworn in, he was telling his supporters that it's time for the believers just to, keep your chins up, go back to your lives. Just keep on keeping on. It's
like World War II propaganda. We'll get through this together, guys. You just gotta hold on to your dreams. Yeah, hold on to your dreams.
Put your kids on a leash so the Clintons won't be able to abduct them and harvest their adrenochrome. Just be careful out there, but don't wear a mask. Don't wear a mask.
You don't need to wear a mask. Just keep holding on, guys.
But they really were, even up to like, even after what happened at the Capitol riots and up until like, the inauguration on what was that, 21st or 20th? The final minutes of Trump's presidency, QAnon followers, like the really devoted ones, were cheering for him to do something spectacular, and they instructed all their followers to come together and pray because the next 5 hours of the inauguration would determine the fate of the world.
Why are they like this?
They're Christian and they're insane. Yeah. But, I've never been a follower of QAnon, but I was hoping something would happen just like them. I was like, I want something spectacular to happen. So I even sat through fucking J-Lo singing America the Beautiful in Spanish. Nothing happened. They're so anticlimactic.
Assassinated at that point. Get rid of it.
They just killed J-Lo. QAnon's like, well, we got one of the celebrities, we're part of the satanic pedophile ring.
Yeah.
But sure enough,
for her crimes against acting ship. That's what she
ears. Yeah, what was that movie she did with Affleck? Glee or G? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Geely or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, as the day wore on Wednesday, and Trump just gave no hints of any kind of plan to take over the U.S., QAnon users started lamenting on 8chan that it doesn't make any sense. We all got played. Congratulations, you played yourself, QAnon.
Do you think they feel like they've all been gaslit by the Orange Man for 4 years?
Yeah, a lot of them think they got sold out, like they're played by the Orange Man. And then the reality, but the fact of the matter is, and this is what blows my mind about Q and its adherents, is that the reality, of Biden actually becoming president was just something that they never allowed to penetrate their consciousness. Like they thought it would never happen. And as it's happening, it was a jarring experience for these people. I mean, it was like an existential experience.
Yeah.
They started questioning, like, what do we do now? And so what's happening on like all these pro QAnon message boards and on 8chan and Parler and all that, a lot of them are like turning their backs on the conspiracy theory. And so which prompted the spokespeople on these QAnon message boards saying, if you turn your back on the conspiracy theory now, you'll be banned from the site. So yeah, I mean, they're getting harsh. Like, you stop believing Tom Hanks is a satanic pedophile, you're banned for life, bro. That's what happens.
They're getting tough with that. Some tough loving times for these people. They need a leader, don't they?
They need something, because right now they're reaching for anything to believe in. There's even a new spin to the conspiracy theory that Biden has been the savior all along. He's actually Q. Biden is Q.
So are you saying that all along this whole time it's been a leftist propaganda movement to get the left back into power?
Some of them said that too. Yeah.
Okay.
They were saying on some of these QAnon message boards that there were 17 flags around the stage when Trump was speaking. So when Trump was giving his final farewell, there were 17 flags on the stage. Number 17 is code for QAnon, and the letter Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. What does that mean?
Oh my God, it means everything, Dee. I'm a believer now.
So there you go.
Daddy. Yeah.
QAnon ends not with a bang, but a whimper and a whine. They were incredibly amusing. Like the past couple of years, and we talked about them myriad times here on the show, because their theories are just insane. And I loved how steadfast they were in their convictions. I mean, they really did believe that Tom Hanks is a pedophile. I mean, we had those QAnon dickheads on the show. I forget, the much more successful podcast than we have, but we had those guys on the show a while ago, and that crazy woman talking about it was the Wayfair conspiracy with the sex trafficking kids and hidden inside furniture. But for all intents and purposes, QAnon was a lame cult, feckless, impotent Facebook cult. That's what QAnon is.
Don't think they're gone. I think they will be back and in greater numbers.
But the thing is, though, there's nothing really that insane about them. I mean, they have their crazy theories, but they don't act on it. They don't really do anything. It's all just, they like to sit there with their Facebook handles and on their internet forums, bitching about, making memes, bitching about Trump or bitching about Biden and the Democrats. Mm-hmm. It's all a facade with them, though. It's all smoke and mirrors, their whole fucking storm. When the time came for them, and that's, I'm talking about the inauguration, when the time came for them to pick up the rattlesnake and put it on their head and fight for Donald Trump and the impending storm, they tucked their tails in between their legs and retreated to their message boards, to hide behind their patriot-themed nicknames and talk shit. Mm-hmm. See where I'm going with it, Rob?
I see where this segue is going. Yes, it's very well done. You're very intelligent.
Slick.
You're slithering into it.
So this week, as I was joyfully reading about QAnon's disenfranchisement, I got into this wormhole, researching Christian doomsday cults, because QAnon's kind of a doomsday cult in a sense. I mean, they're definitely mostly Christian. They might not all be Christian, but it's a religious group, most of the followers. And they are kind of a doomsday cult, because they thought,
totally.
There's the storm's coming, it's going to end. And, I'm sure a lot of them believe in the rapture. Mm-hmm. So I started researching Christian doomsday cults and religious cults in general. And unsurprisingly, I stumbled upon, the history of the Appalachian snake handler movement, which is still very active today.
Oh, is it still going?
Oh, it's still going. You go to you can go to snake handler services in Tennessee and West Virginia.
Oh, cool.
I don't even think it's illegal in West Virginia.
The Appalachian Mountains.
But the thing is with the snake handlers, they're not some lame Christian cult on the internet wearing their fucking Viking horn hats and their lock her up t-shirts, sitting here whinging and whining on the internet. They're worshiping Jesus with a fucking rattlesnake on their head. How hardcore is that?
It's also hardcore, but if you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough. I think as well.
I think that goes without saying, but it's a fascinating, deranged cult. I think they're the real deal, the snake handlers. They are not, they're not scared to look danger in the eye with its flickering tongue and then worship Jesus, So anyway, I started looking into it, and it's fascinating. So we're going to talk about George Wendt Hensley, who is an American Pentecostal minister who definitely popularized the practice of snake handling. And though it existed, it actually developed independently across several Pentecostal ministries in the South. Hensley is considered the father of modern snake handling churches. So, Kate, if you have a pic of Hensley here, check out this guy's crazy eyes.
I do.
He has crazy eyes because anyone who's willing to hold 2 handfuls of fucking rattlesnakes, you got to be a crazy man. Like, look at his eyes, just 1,000-yard stare, like just looking at Jesus, holding copperheads.
They're cool snakes, on. Like
they will kill you.
Over here in Britain, we only have adders. They're our only poisonous snake, and they're very shy and retiring. They will not bite you, and they're poisonous, but they're not going to kill you. Like, nobody dies from adder bites. I think the last adder bite death was probably like 100 years ago.
Oh, okay. Do you guys have venomous snakes other than that?
Just the adder. But the adders are very beautiful. They're gray and they're stone colored. I've never seen one, but I have had friends see adders before.
You see rattlesnakes all the time here. Especially in California. And it's the juvenile rattlesnakes that you have to be wary of because they're the ones who can't control the venom in their bites. Yeah. So they bite you, they will kill you.
The snappy.
So what's the other picture of George? This is great. George in action. Preaching. There he is.
He is George.
Yeah, here's George.
On the far left, you can see his crazy eyes, people.
But he's holding like a baby rattler there.
And this guy got no arm.
He probably got it bitten off by a snake. They had to cut it off or something. But yeah. And it looks like they're in some kind of bunker or like a shed.
I think this will be their church, won't it?
Well, it's rural Appalachia, so probably. And everybody in that room is related.
Do you know what I know about everyone in this room? They all have bang fire record collections.
Well,
it's all Hank Williams and Roger Miller. I'm telling you.
I don't know. Their family trees have no branches. It's just straight up.
Well, he's definitely not got a branch. He's lost it.
So anyway, Hensley here was a native of rural Appalachia. He experienced a religious conversion around 1910 on the basis of his interpretation of Scripture. He came to believe that the New Testament commanded all Christians to handle venomous snakes. So you think about it, it's like, dude, what were you drinking when you were reading that chapter? Because I want some of that moonshine.
I think I did read the quote. Was it a Mark 16:10 or something quote? Where
it's Mark 16, 17, 18, chapters 17, 18, or the verses, chapter 7, verses 17th and 18 in chapter 16 of the Gospel of Mark.
Okay. Is this? I know nothing about the Bible, so is this Old Testament or New Testament?
New Testament.
Oh, is it New Testament? Okay.
Yeah, Jews would never believe this.
Oh, the Jews would never play with snakes.
This guff. Yeah. But yeah, the actual quote here, which is Hensley's justification of snake handling and other miraculous activities. So, I mean, that's the thing. It wasn't just snake handling these guys did. Mm-hmm. They drank poison, strychnine, and battery acid.
They drank battery acid.
Jesus would protect them. Yes.
Why does Jesus want them to drink battery acid?
It's part of the poison. So the quote here, the verse itself says, "And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover." So if you think about it, I think the drinking the deadly things, that's probably battery acid.
I think you should reread that all out and do it like your preacher, Sam Kinison.
I can't do a Sam Kinison. So he ended up being converted. He had this this epiphany. And then he started traveling through the southeastern U.S., teaching a form of Pentecostalism that emphasized strict personal holiness and frequent contact with venomous snakes. And so George was illiterate his whole life.
Oh, really?
And never learned to read. He couldn't read the Scripture. He memorized the Scripture. He memorized verses, but he never could read it. But he managed to become a licensed minister of the Church of God, which is in Tennessee in 1915. And he traveled through Tennessee for years, conducting Church of God sanctioned services with snakes until he resigned in 1922. He joined back up. Don't worry about it. But he was married 4 times, fathered 13 kids, had many conflicts with his family because he was an incorrigible drunk. He wasn't like a philanderer, but he was definitely a drunk. Traveled nonstop, preaching. Never had a steady income. He was arrested several times on moonshine-related charges because this was during Prohibition, and he was even sentenced to a work prison, but then escaped and fled the state.
Do you know who he's reminding me of? He really is giving me a bit of like George Jones vibes. That's who he looks like as well.
He does kind of have he looks kind of like George Jones. Yeah, he definitely drank like George
this
Jones.
Drinking, all these shagging of the women.
I don't think George Jones worshipped Jesus with snakes, but maybe
in his spare time. Yeah.
He established churches known as the Church of God with signs following in Tennessee and Kentucky. And he had small services like ranged to 20 people to gatherings of like 700 people.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Throughout his ministry, the whole time he was preaching, he claimed to have been bitten by many snakes without any effect. But he even said at the end of his career, he had survived more than 400 snake bites from rattlesnakes.
I'm in two minds about this because you can be immune to snake bites because you build it up over time, don't you? But I don't know.
You'll never guess how he died.
Snake bite.
We'll get to that. So this was in like the late 19th century. So most of the information on Hensley, like if we talk about his background, is all oral history. It was weird. I had to really search to try to find more information about this guy. There were some different sites, but I had to like consult the encyclopedias to find some information about Hensley. So he said to his kids, 13 of them, that he was from West Virginia and that his family's roots are in Pennsylvania. But in reality, his family lived in Hawkins County, Tennessee. And that's where he was born. One of 13 children. He lived in Tennessee and then, throughout the 1880s. And then his family, in around the 1890s, moved to Big Stone Gap, Virginia. And there he witnessed an elderly woman. He was a young child, and it's a very impressionable moment for him. He witnessed an elderly woman handle a snake during a revival service at a coal mining camp. And his mother and sisters, they were very religious, and he grew up in a Baptist community. But seeing this woman, young George, seeing this woman holding the snake at this service really was a very inspiring moment for him. So in 1901, he left the Baptist church, and he married Amanda Winiger. That was his first wife. They lived on a farm in Ooltewah, Tennessee. And there he worked in local ore mines, which is, I imagine, a very common job. He also helped his brother-in-law in his lumber business and side job making moonshine, which I imagine that's kind of like, it's probably kind of like having an Etsy store these days, supplementing your income.
Yeah, a bit of moonshine. Yeah.
A bit of moonshine. He experienced an actual conversion while attending a Holiness Pentecostal Church of God service. I think certain people, you have to have this mindset to make you open to accepting like the Pentecostal beliefs, because they're very, very extreme, a very extreme and strict form of Christianity. I don't think a lot of people could do that, like the whole speaking in tongues and the faith healing and all that.
Yeah, it's kind of like didn't Jim Jones kind of start out as a Pentecostal preacher?
Was he? I could see him. I could see him being that because he
stole a lot of that stuff, didn't he? Speaking.
Well, was he Baptist? Because a lot of
could be Baptist. You're right.
Yeah, because it's kind of close.
All that stuff. Is it? Yeah. Is it close? I'm ignorant to these.
Well, I think it's close in terms of community and all that. So he experienced this conversion at this Holiness Pentecostal Church. And this is led by a local evangelist's teenage son. And at this moment, he walked down that service and he forsook alcohol, tobacco, and any friendships with people that were deemed worldly. So if you're deemed worldly, he wasn't going to associate with you.
I don't think George would have liked me.
But that must have been a strong conversion to give up alcohol.
Yeah, especially for a guy who
was quite fond of it
and was drinking moonshine. Yeah, to turn his back on it.
So Hensley was initially content following his experience at Church of God, but then, he became Pentecostal, but he still was searching for meaning, and he questioned whether he was living a righteous life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when he found solace and a fixation on this passage in the Gospel of Mark. These signs shall follow them that believe in my name, they shall take up serpents. And so that he took literally. And
Obviously.
Historians have looked into it, and people have even interviewed his children. And they say that this preoccupation with this verse from the Gospel of Mark all stem from that childhood memory of him witnessing the snake handling at that revival service that he saw. Later, he recalled this one experience as his true inspiration for becoming a snake handler and introducing snakes into his preaching. He said that he was doubting his salvation. So this would have been like, I don't know, 1910 or so. And he started doubting his salvation, and he withdrew to took a hike in a mountain looking for a sign from God, like a burning bush or something. And while he was walking up this mountain, he came upon a rattlesnake, and he fell on his knees in front of it in prayer, because that was the sign, this rattlesnake. He scooped it up, insane person, placed it in a sack, and he took it back to his congregation. And he brought the snake to the next service that he had, and he took it out of the sack during the service, handled it himself, unharmed, and then he challenged the congregation to do the same thing, as a show of faith, as their faith in Jesus.
Do you think he had a little name for his pet?
Moses.
Jake the snake.
No, yeah, maybe Jake the snake.
I think snakes are so cute. I would have a little snake slithering around my house.
Well, I wonder how this went down though the first time. Like the first time when you're in the service, you're just like, "Here's a rattlesnake, kiss it," like for Jesus.
Kiss it for Jesus.
Yeah, I just wonder what people would have done.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely wouldn't have worked on the Jews. We'd have been like, "What's wrong with this guy? Meshuggah. You want me to kiss a snake? You insane?" I could just see their faces, just shocked. The rabbi never would have tried to pull that stunt.
No, that
maybe his trouser snake.
I was about to say on the weekends.
So at first, the Church of God did not object to these snake handling services. I think they were a little weirded out by it. Mm-hmm. They're like, "All right, this is unorthodox. This is something new," but they didn't object to it. And in 1914. He held a is the first official snake handling meeting with the Church of God bishop, he had a meeting with a Church of God bishop in Tennessee. And through that, just for his devotion and the fact that he had this divine revelation, they gave him a license as a Church of God minister officially. So it's kind of funny, like this guy's illiterate. He had to have his wife fill out the paperwork because he's completely illiterate. And they're just like, "Well, okay, you don't know how to read. You like to handle snakes. And you had this divine revelation that God dropped a rattlesnake for you. Sure, you could be a minister."
Preacher man. Yeah.
That also doesn't work with the Jews. Yeah. You need a little more education than that.
You go to school for like 9 years to become a rabbi, don't you?
It's like you could become a doctor with a long amount of time it takes for us to be in school. So he would memorize Bible verses, when he was preaching because he couldn't read. Or sometimes he'd have one of his wives, he had 5 wives, but he had a couple of them that would participate in the service, or his sister, and they would actually read the scripture, and he would just kind of sit there holding the snakes. Now, looking at his theology, Hensley's theology, with the exception of the snake handling, was pretty much just typical of any fundamentalist Pentecostal church. I mean, it's his teachings on personal holiness, is very similar to everybody else. I mean, they condemned a number of practices as being sinful: drinking, gambling, consuming alcohol, smoking, wearing lipstick, playing baseball. It's like
lipstick. Yeah.
It's sinful. So the Jezebels do. Of course you'd like that.
Well, I'm worldly, dude.
And they all spoke in tongues. And I mean, this is really common. So I think the only thing he really did is he just added the snake handling in there, and he upheld the ability. Yeah. Well, the ability to handle venomous snakes without harm is proof of salvation and evidence of a steadfast faith. Mm-hmm. So this was linked to speaking in tongues. So by not being bitten or harmed by the snake, God's inside of you. And that's why they would speak in tongues and roll on the ground. So you have a couple of pictures of some of the,
I do.
Yeah. Show a picture of some of these services in action. So anybody who rejected the observance of snake handling was deemed an unbeliever. So all these guys are believers. Look at this guy with a snake. It's almost up his nose.
Look at this guy.
Oh, the guy in the back.
Oh yeah, he's smelling something because he's smelling God. What does it say? All things work together for God, to them that I love God. That's what it says in the background.
So another less discussed practice here was the belief that, and I mentioned this earlier, is that they could drink poison with no ill effects and touch fire without getting burned. So in some of these services, you see them like taking a torch to their hands. The poison of choice was most often strychnine, although they would often use battery acid or carbolic acid, which they would just drink down like a shot of liquor.
How did they survive that? Or is there
I think a lot of them didn't.
Dying? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of them didn't. They also would use a candle or fill the top of a bottle with a rag, which they would light and hold against their skin while praying, singing, and dancing without getting burned. And the churches maintain that members aren't forced to participate in any of these practices. And, you're taught to abstain from them unless you're, quote, in the spirit. And so that's being in the spirit is defined as being inspired by the Spirit of God to do these actions that would be deadly without his help. So that's why they're like rolling on the ground, speaking in tongues, because the Spirit is inside of them.
The Spirit's inside of them.
The Spirit, yeah. Look at this guy's like, here, baby, handle this rattlesnake.
He's trying to give his spirit to that baby.
Yeah, insane.
Do you know what? It's such a shame there is not a looker amongst them, is there? Oh my God, she's breastfeeding her child. Easy.
Which one? Oh, wow. Yeah.
Got a fucking tit out.
Get the snake milk. Hensley himself was a short man, very soft-spoken, and very friendly with his churchgoers. He was a very affable guy. Most attendees at his services were miners or farmers from the Appalachian Mountains. Congregants typically arrived to the services on horseback. Some actually, more affluent ones drove a Ford Model A.
Nice.
Many were from the holiness Pentecostal backgrounds, but not particularly familiar with the snake handling aspect. Mm-hmm. But by the early 1920s, it was a common practice in the Church of God services. Everybody was handling snakes, dancing around with snakes, enjoying snakes in the service, putting them on their head.
Heads.
Yes, putting the snakes
accessory
on their head. It's a hell of a hat.
That's
so in 1922, after it was taken off, the snake handling the snake handling services here, Hensley resigned from the Church of God. He cited trouble in the home, and this resignation marked the zenith of the practice of snake handling in the denomination. So I mean, it was at its like highest point here, and he just walked away.
Right,
walked away from it. He separated from his first wife, Amanda. People said that it had to do with his drunkenness and his temper, which sort of soured the relationship. But I'm thinking it had to do with snakes, because I'm sure he brought the snakes into the bedroom to test his wife's loyalty. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, there must have been snakes all over the fucking house.
There will have been. It depends how much you like snakes.
I think he likes snakes.
I like snakes.
So he is the father of 8 children with Amanda.
Whoa.
Yes, vagina was a clown car. Yeah, there's a lot of kids coming out of there. I don't even know how he supported them on a Pentecostal minister salary, but I don't know. I mean, it was 1922. So they separated in 1922. One of their children claimed that the separation occurred after an incident in which Hensley became drunk and fought a neighbor. So that could be. He definitely was an incorrigible drunk. She soon left the area, found work in Chattanooga hosiery mill, but then became ill and bedridden. Hensley's sister and brother-in-law actually traveled to Chattanooga to take care of her. So shortly after he split with the wife, 1923, he was arrested on moonshine-related charges and sentenced to 4 months in jail, fined $100.
Whoa.
In lieu of jail time, though, he was permitted to serve a sentence at this workhouse, like a workhouse prison. So he was on a chain gang constructing roads. But the guards liked him. They found him likable, and they gave him other assignments. He was a genuinely affable fellow. And then after being sent to go get some water for everybody, he just took off, fled.
He's on the run.
Evaded recapture. And then he hid in the mountains near his sister's farm in, where is this, in Tennessee? Yeah, Tennessee. And he ultimately left and fled to his other sister's house in Ohio. And so when he was in Ohio, that's when he returned to the ministry. I think the thing is, it's like, if he's like, shit, I can't find work doing anything else. Moonshine business isn't picking up. Let's go back to being a minister.
Hey, what am I good at? I'm good at handling snakes.
Handling snakes. You know, I mean, he's got a knack for that. So he might as well do it. Because he was illiterate, he would have his sister Bertha, which is a great name, by the way. I would read passages. I'm sure she's as attractive as the women we saw in those pics.
Yeah.
Bertha would read passages from the Bible during services. And then he would deliver a sermon on a theme drawn from those verses. So he ended up, it was funny too, because, well, quite hypocritical, but that's pretty common with most Christian beliefs. Most religious beliefs.
Most religions.
Religious beliefs. I'm picking on Christians. Most religious beliefs.
Yeah.
He frequently preached on the topic of faith healing and being like faithful to your wife. But then he divorced his wife in 1926. So I know how that goes. So this is when he met his second wife, Irene Klunzinger. He married her in 1927, and he was 25 years her senior.
Ooh.
So, but I think age discrepancies didn't matter as much back then, though, you know? So after the wedding, they ended up moving to Ohio, near where his brothers lived, and he worked in a coal mine, and Irene gave birth to their first child. Soon after, they moved to a town called Malvern, Ohio, where she had their second child. And in 1932, he moved the whole family to Kentucky. And there, because he came in contact with this religious layman who had seen him handle snakes in Chattanooga, asked him to come to the area and return to the ministry. And it was in Pineville, Kentucky, that he built a new Church of God. And he established a church himself, and he called it a Free Pentecostal Church. And it was during this period, 1935, he had another kid. He brought back the snake handling. And so at this point, snake handling was, I would say it was at a fevered pitch, very popular. He drew crowds to the preaching. In Norton, Virginia, 500 people at an event. Several other events had 300-400 people. I mean, it's a huge crowd. At this particular service in Norton, Virginia, though, the service was thrown into disarray after a boy in the audience killed one of the snakes.
I was just about to ask, so when he's doing the bigger services with the more snakes, does he have to go out and find more snakes? And then when he's doing the smaller services, is there still more snakes there? Does it, is it like you enter the church and you get given a snake on entry?
I just think he had a big bag of snakes.
Yeah.
And he would just open up like in the middle of the service or maybe in the beginning, just open up a box of snakes and be like, take a snake.
Do you think the little boy killed the snake by going, woo, 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 above his head
just
like
throwing
a lasso?
whipping it around? No, I think what happened is like a fucking rattlesnake was coming near and the kid freaked out and stomped on it.
Oh, that's really sad.
So I have a clip here of a video from one of these a typical snake handling service. And so what's amazing about this, and I'm going to play it so you can have some audio here. What's amazing about this is the music is great. The music's great.
Amazing. It's like rockabilly. There's a snake.
And everybody's so into it too.
I'm into this music, man. This is why I'm saying they all had banging record collections.
I mean, the other thing too, it's so joyous. Like everybody's getting into it. They're dancing. They're carrying snakes in their hands. It's a jubilant affair. Like everybody's in good spirits here. Everybody's in the spirit. Yeah, it's kind
not
of
a looker amongst them.
So to see this guy's pulling snakes out of the box. over here. He's just reaching in and just grabbing these snakes out of the box. There's a box of snakes. This guy's holding one. Okay, now this guy looks like he's having a fit. He's like in conniptions, but he's overcome with the Spirit of God.
This is when they would start with the Spirit.
This is when they would start speaking in tongues and screaming and just like that nonsensical language. God, I love the music. I would love to see one of these. You can go.
I would love to have gone to this.
Services.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at this girl. She's touched by God.
There are so many euphemisms throughout this episode.
All right. Yeah. And this woman here is getting a little crazy with it too. So yeah, I mean, he would have like hundreds of people that would show up at the service and go crazy, handling snakes, rolling around the ground, speaking in tongues, drinking poison. And so in 1936, he built a house on the back of a trailer truck. He drove to Florida to hold these revival services because I imagine this was exceptionally popular in Florida. And he drew like hundreds of people at these snake handling services. And in one particular service in Bartow, Florida, he had 780 people attend one of his tent revival meetings. There's during a service in Barrow, which I think another town in Florida, a young agricultural worker was bitten by a snake and became ill. Hensley then addressed reporters that were on the scene and claimed that the man was bitten because he was not quite ready for the demonstrations of the power.
He wasn't filled with the Spirit yet.
Not yet. He predicted that the young man would miraculously recover, but the man died. This is the first death by snake bite to occur at one of Henley's services. And he even conducted the funeral, but then left the area for fear of prosecution. How's that to reaffirm your faith?
Yeah.
He then traveled to Ohio to bring one of his sons to live with a sister of Irene, and then returned to Pineville, Kentucky, where he worked as a railroad conductor. You could get any job back then.
Yeah.
You didn't need experience or qualifications. Yeah. No, it's like, I want to go fly an airplane. Sure enough, here, you go fly an airplane. It's like, didn't matter. And anybody apparently can be a pastor. And so, yeah, he pastored the East Pineville Church of God. There, he was actually arrested for handling snakes. So they're starting to outlaw the practice. Okay. And he had to jettison off to Knoxville, Tennessee, where he bought a farm.
How many states is this man going to get kicked out of?
I think he just kind of did a tour of the South, like West Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida. He lived in Tennessee until at least late 1941. And then he moved to Indiana after separating from Irene. So
all this moving about, man, it's so exhausting moving, George.
And not to mention, he just went from like wife to wife.
Yeah. State to state, new wife to new wife. He's got a wife in every state, hasn't he?
Yeah. And I don't quite get it. And so by this point, though, the snake handling had been losing its popularity. And a lot of groups had moved on to non-Trinitarianism, which became a bit of a trend. That's where you don't believe in like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You just check the Holy Trinity. And so
what
various
do you believe
churches,
in, then?
I think you just believe in like Jesus and God. You don't think there's like a three spirit thing.
They're not having a freeway.
There's no three-way. No Holy Spirit taking over. Okay. Various churches in the area then also banned snake practice, like the practice of snake handling. Mm-hmm. So it kind of fell out of vogue. So it was around 1943 that a young student of Hensley, Raymond Hayes, arrived in Tennessee and began successfully preaching about snake handling. It started picking up again, started getting some momentum, a little bit of a resurrection here. And so Hensley and Hayes started a church together in 1945, which they called the Dolly Pond Church of God with signs following.
I think you all know what I thought you were going to say then.
I know. When I first read it, I was thinking the Dolly Parton. I wouldn't be surprised if she was a snake handler.
Dolly Parton could do anything.
Anything. She can do anything, that woman. Yes. Mm-hmm. And plus, this is in near Knoxville, Tennessee. And so that's where she's from. Isn't she from like Smoky Mountains, that whole area?
She is from that area, so it wouldn't be surprising if her relatives, because she's got a crap ton of relatives, haven't they? They all work at Dolly World. They wouldn't be surprised if they were handling snakes.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. So check out here this second video of another. This is another ruckus snake handling service here. Let me get this going. So yeah, this is the second one here of them going nuts. Now they're also, once again, great music. Great music. This guy here. Now he's a preacher.
I'll tell you how much you're sanctified as much as this word that you move through. That's how much you're sanctified. Hey, what do you think about Jesus?
So if you went to one of these services, would you handle a snake if someone handled it to you?
I would handle all the men's snakes. I would just hold my hand out and ask for the men's snakes.
Don't you do that every Saturday night at the bars in the north of England? The pubs. God's taking over right now.
Oh, this guy's double handling the snake.
He's double fisting.
Oh my God. This is like your brother on a Saturday night.
Yeah, my brothers had at least like 10 trouser snakes at once.
Oh, look at that woman is doing this. The chops.
The one doing the Dougie in the background?
Yeah. Some classic white guy dancing going on here. Ooh, I love his outfit. All black.
I'm sure the snakes love the dancing.
I think the snakes do too. A live band as well.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so these definitely a lively event, these snake handling services. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was at the the East Pineville Church of God, or the Dolly Pond Church of God here took off. And in 1945, during one of their services, another member of the church was bitten by a snake and died. Oh. Surprise, surprise.
Again, was not filled with the Spirit of the Lord.
Well, that's what they said. The man's death was viewed as ordained by God to test the faith of the other congregants and to demonstrate to non-believers that the snakes that they handled were in fact dangerous. Mm-hmm. Well, no shit. They're fucking rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
You know? So that year, he was arrested for snake handling in Chattanooga, Tennessee, given a $50 fine, which he never paid. And then he was threatened with a workhouse sentence, but members of the church appealed to authorities and they dropped the charges. Mm-hmm. So he continued to travel around, doing revivals and all that, but he kind of received a mixed reception because some people were aware of his past. So, I mean, the guy had a kind of a checkered background. So, but a lot of them were willing to forgive him and welcome him back in his ministerial role, even though he was estranged from his family, during this whole time. Oh,
right. So he was not paying child support for his 13 children?
Yeah, with Amanda, no, I don't think so. And he had 5. Yeah. He had 5 children with the second wife, Irene.
So what is that? 17 children?
18 kids. 18 kids. Wow. Yeah. His wife Irene, who was much younger, she was from a prosperous Lutheran family, but she believed she was suffering from a curse, and only George could free her from the curse. Ooh. But ultimately, they felt that he was unable to. The marriage was contentious because of his frequent unemployment, poor treatment, the fact that he was always in and out of work, and the fact that he was a drinker. And I'm sure the snake thing, he brought the snakes into the bedroom. Yeah. No woman's going to be down with that. What's kind of funny is that they went back and forth. Like he would separate from her and then come back to her, and then they'd separate and then they'd reconcile. But at one point, he wanted to put all their children in an orphanage so she could travel with him and preach. And she was like, no, I'm not doing that. She's like, I'm not doing that. And so then they ended up getting a divorce.
Yeah.
It's like they have 5 kids. He's like, let's just put them in an orphanage. And so 1943, divorced Irene. She actually died soon after from complications following surgery for a goiter.
A what? A what?
She was afflicted. A goiter.
What's a goiter?
It's like a big, huge, massive cyst. You never seen one of those?
Is it? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, it's like a growth that grows in your skin.
Oh.
And so I imagine in this day and age, they just cut it out. But imagine back then.
Hey,
probably,
maybe she was cursed.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that goiter. Probably Satan's goiter. So in 1946, he married for the third time. But his wife, Inez Hutchinson, left him just less than a year of marriage. She's like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I don't know what she was thinking. And so after their separation, he would continue to preach in Chattanooga. And he lived in Chattanooga until the early 1950s, where he then moved to Athens, Georgia, to the mid 1950s. And that's where he met Sally Norman, his final wife. Mm-hmm. And after their marriage, she traveled with him as he ministered in Tennessee and Kentucky. So now he finally died July 1955 in Alpha, Florida. So at this point, he was a practicing minister, doing snake handling services regularly, traveling with his wife. I don't know how old his wife was at this point, but yeah, this was with his new wife, Sally. And so he was conducting meetings without snakes for 3 weeks. So he didn't have any snakes, but he finally procured a 5-foot rattlesnake. And most of these snakes were like cottonmouths and copperheads, diamondback rattlesnakes. And he brought it to a Sunday afternoon service, July 24th, 1955. Several dozen people gathered at an abandoned blacksmith shop at this service. And there he loudly delivered a sermon on the topic of faith. He then removed the snake from a lard can in which it was stored, wrapped it around his neck, rubbed it all over his face, which is kind of what they do. He then walked around the audience holding the snake. And while preaching, he started returning it back to the can. And as he placed the snake into the can, it bit him on the wrist. And he continued preaching, but after a few minutes, he became visibly ill, experiencing severe pain, a discolored arm, the arm that was bitten, and hematemesis, which is vomiting up blood. Mm-hmm. So he was just like barfing up blood. You know, his arm was like probably purple and black, and he was in severe pain, but he refused any medical attention. And although he remained in pain, he and was urged to seek immediate treatment by the congregants that were there, he was like, that's fine. This suffering that I'm experiencing right now is because of your lack of faith. He flipped it back on them.
Yeah.
And his wife, Sally, stated that it was the will of God. And Hensley would not recover from it. He was pronounced dead the following morning. And the official cause of death was ruled a suicide.
Oh.
So George Hensley, the father of snake handling, died July 25th, 1955 from a snake bite. Who would have thunk that?
Who'd have thunk it, man? Who'd have thunk that was Georgie boy?
I wonder if there are snakes at the funeral.
Do you think they all turned up in delightful little tuxes that had no arms and little bow ties? They're wiping away their
little
teeth.
hats.
Oh, that would be adorable to see.
Yeah, his relatives traveled from Tennessee to Florida for the funeral. Country music band played. Probably was fun. Probably a lively affair.
I think it would have been, yeah.
He was buried 2 days after his death at a cemetery right by the blacksmith shop where he was bitten. After the funeral, some of the congregants met and declared their intention to continue handling snakes. And his wife, Sally, resolved to continue spreading her late husband's teaching and saying after the whole incident, she didn't lose an ounce of faith.
If anything, she was filled with more faith from the
Her husband died. It was a will of God.
Yeah.
So, it's undeniable that George left a legacy. I mean, just the fact that there's still snake handling churches today, practicing today. A lot of people have tried to designate that he, George Hensley, was the progenitor of Appalachian, religious snake handling. But I mean, it was going on. It was going on like independently throughout several different Pentecostal churches. I think what happened is that he was so vocal in spreading snake handling. He popularized it. Yeah. And, he's very influential. So what's interesting about it is snake handling is still practiced this day. There's as many as 125 churches and up to 5,000 practitioners of snake handling.
In the South, in America, is there?
In the South this very day.
Wow.
But it's hard to verify, the exact number of these churches because, a lot of this is snake handling is outlawed. Many of these animals are protected, thankfully, except in West Virginia, totally cool to go handle rattlesnakes. But a lot of these services are conducted in like residential homes or like makeshift abandoned buildings. So it's really kind of hard to keep track of it. But I mean, it's still going on. And in fact, I was watching some snippets of this, but I'm probably going to have to download it. Maybe sign up for HBO Max. But a new true crime documentary came out called Alabama Snake, which came out in December. And it chronicles the controversial 1991 case of Pentecostal minister Glenn Summerford, who was accused of trying to murder his wife with a rattlesnake in Scottsboro, Alabama in 1991. I think we have a pic of Glenn. But yeah, this guy like tried to murder his wife with a rattlesnake. And so, yeah, not that guy. This guy. Does he look like the type of guy?
Is that his wife that he tried to murder?
Bit of a minger.
Do you know what? There has not been a looker in any of these pictures.
What about Glenn Summerford?
He's got that kind of intensity, doesn't he?
He's got a Ben Gazzara thing going on.
He's got a Ben Gazzara intensity. But other than that, no, I think he definitely has "will murder you with a rattlesnake" energy coming from his eyes.
Well, he is well known in the area for handling poisonous snakes as the pastor of the Church of Jesus with signs following. There's always got to be signs following here. And he said in interviews that religion had turned him around from a previous life of crime. However, that new, I guess, change of character here was shaken after his wife, Darlene, in the picture here, accused him of forcing her at gunpoint to stick her hand into a box of rattlesnakes.
Like on Flash Garden, where they've got
that bog, that tree.
Yeah, and there's
same deal.
Beautiful Timothy Dalton sticks his hand right in. Timothy Dalton can stick his hand in my bark hole any day. She
claimed that he wanted to kill her so he could date another preacher.
What? So maybe. Why don't you just break up with her, Glenn?
I don't know. The rattlesnakes.
Yeah, he wants to
have Jesus do it.
Yeah.
The trial and media frenzy, which surrounded this Southern Appalachia case, often focused on Summerford's snake handling, which was a curiosity of the nation. He was convicted of attempted murder in 1992 and sentenced to 99 years behind bars. He's still in prison right now.
Oh, wow.
Another snake handler that was in the news recently is Kentucky pastor Jamie Coots, who died after a snake bit him during a worship service in 2014. And he's in the National Geographic documentary called Snake Salvation. So I think I have a video here of Coots. So Jamie Coots was the pastor of the Full Gospel Tabernacle in Jesus' Name Church. And he was handling a rattlesnake during a service when he was bitten on his right hand. So this is one of Coots' services here. The fat guy holding the snake is not Coots, but you'll see. He's also kind of a fat guy too. So he was bitten on his right hand. And when the ambulance arrived, the EMS team found that he just left. He went home. So he was bitten by the rattlesnake, left and went home. They went to his house and he verbally refused treatment from the EMT team. He said that, and when they found him at home, he was unconscious. And when they arrived, his wife signed a form declining any kind of medical treatment. That's Coots right there, dancing.
The dancer,
yeah.
That's him.
Yep.
So it's weird. Why is he not? I would have thought if he's a pastor, he would have been dressed in like a shirt and a tie. But he's dressed in.
This is Appalachia. Camo. He's dressed in like camo.
Yeah. I don't know. You could still show up to church.
Well, so once his wife declined the treatment for him, emergency personnel left, and when they returned, like an hour later, they found him dead from a venomous snake bite. Ooh. And so his son, that might be his. No, that's probably not his son.
That's definitely not his son.
I bet you the fat guy in the back's his son. Yeah. His son, Cody Coots, said his father had handled that snake many times. Quote, "That snake that bit him, we've been carrying him to the church for about 4 months. It's been carried hundreds of times, handled all kinds of times. But now when it's your time to go, it's just your time to go."
He was. Oh, look, he's playing with fire now. So now he's got
Yeah,
a-
he's got a torch burning his hand.
hands, yeah. It's your time to go. It's your time to go.
Cody said that the
So-
snake bite that killed his father is just a test of fate to see if you will go to the doctor and get medicine or if you'll let Jesus heal it. You gotta let Jesus heal it.
Yeah, as I say, Jesus did not want him healed that day. They're all having a go at burning their hands now.
And so his father died. Yeah, everyone's got the Bunsen
I
burner
tell
here,
you
just
what,
torching their hands.
This is big brains time, isn't it? This is like, it's funny how now there's no women at these services and it's just suddenly all men.
And so
That
you're
says
wondering how
something.
people can believe in QAnon?
Yeah.
But yeah, so even to this day, this practice is still very prevalent in the South. And even Cody Coots, whose father died from being bitten by a venomous snake, is a snake handling pastor. He still handles snakes, plans to buy more. He said throughout the area of Kentucky, snake handling is just a misdemeanor, punishable by like a $50 fine. And he said most often the authorities don't get involved unless someone dies. He said, for those who don't understand the practice, if God don't open it up to you, there's nothing I can tell you to open up your mind to get you to do it. So it's got to be God. I think I'll pass, personally.
Yeah.
I think I'll
filled with
pass
many
on it
spirits in my life, but I do not need to be filled with the spirit of our Lord.
with a rattlesnake. But just to revisit my point I was trying to make before, snake handling churches are legitimately insane. They're batshit. Unlike QAnon, which is a Facebook cult filled with hapless soccer moms who pretend to care about sex trafficking by imaginary satanic government forces while justifying or completely ignoring real kids, actual kids who are being locked in cages and separated from their families. I love how they're just like, there's cognitive dissonance on that one.
Yeah.
But imaginary kids are being, sex trafficked by Satanists. I think in a few years, QAnon's probably going to be a hilarious and distant memory. I hope it stays around. But snake handlers will live on. Well,
Forever.
until they get bitten and refuse treatment for their injuries. Anyway, people, this is episode 775 here, Sick and Wrong. We have some news stories coming up next. We have some phone calls a bit later in the show. But first, here's a word about our Patreon page. All
Cool
right.
story, bro.
How was that, bro?
Yeah, I'm sure see what the people are saying.
Yeah.
Ooh, somebody's saying that Kate, I think I can compete with you for Elvis artwork trinkets.
No way.
This is only one of the things I own. One.
Yep, that's a good point, multi-twat man. Could you imagine what it smells like in those services?
I do think it's funny that there's no women there now. Now it's just like the men. Yes, has anyone made any Kate snake handler jokes? Yeah, I did.
Made any what? Oh,
Kate snake handler jokes, yeah. Hey, dude.
Kate's handled many snakes.
It's an occupational hazard. The kindly lesbian look, Dee, that you are rocking.
I am I'm kind of looking like a lesbian.
Look
Do you think it's the hair?
I guess maybe it's the glasses as well, maybe. The glasses.
It could be. It could be the glasses.
Hey, Mike.
The glasses
Good
and the hair.
morning.
I've got some crazy COVID hair going on right now these days.
Everyone has COVID hair.
Well,
I cut my hair at home. I've always cut my hair at home, so I'm okay.
I haven't had my hair cut in so long.
I could go to church with this beehive today.
Well, you probably could.
Good. Somebody just
Alright.
said.
It was what?
Somebody just said, you must be an early riser or do you not sleep? I work nights, so I am a vampire.
Okay, it's got to be like, what time is it over there?
Time currently over here is 8:11 a.m.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone else. Thanks for coming.
What time did you get up? Because you went to bed and then got up at 6?
4. I got up at 4.
You know what I have going on? I have a Rachel Maddow thing going on.
Who's she?
Rachel Maddow?
No.
She's
From
like
what?
that liberal journalist, lesbian.
Oh, is
kinda
that
have
who
that
you look
thing-
like?
I think I kind of have a Rachel Maddow thing going on.
Have you noticed that most men get to a certain point though where they just kind of the kindly lesbian look adopts them? Like, have you seen the
Yeah.
picture of like, is it Axl Rose and Mickey Rourke, where they just like look like two lesbians on their way to Palm Springs for the weekend?
But usually that happens when they're like getting too much Botox, right? Fillers and all
Yeah.
that. Like what's his name? Who's in Showgirls? Kyle and
Kyle
MacLachlan.
MacLachlan. Yeah.
Have you seen him?
No, has he had loads
Look
of
at a
work
picture of him
done?
now. Oh my god, he looks like a woman.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't think you
Yeah,
look
no,
too
he
much
looks
like
like.
a lesbian. You definitely
Oh,
look more
look
like
at
an
him
evil
now. Oh,
lesbian.
me. Yeah, no,
you look more like an
yeah, I
evil
think-
lesbian than a kindly one.
Yeah, I kind of look like an evil lesbian, probably.
Evil lesbian. Aren't they all
Yeah.
evil?
I gotta take a piss and then continue.
Yes, imagine there's so in there. Yeah, the Bernie memes, I'm over them, but I get bored of memes really fast nowadays. Because you see like hundreds of them within like 24 hours, you see so many. It gets boring, man. Ellen DeGeneres. He's probably as mean as Ellen DeGeneres. He's a strict boss. That's cool though. I didn't know anything about all these snake handlers. I have a friend from West Appalachia now lives in Florida, so I'm gonna ask him about the snakes. And he's a dafty. He's in a pretty good band called the Woolly Bushmen. If anyone wants to look them up on Pig Baby Records, Woolly Bushmen. They're kind of 60s revival. They're pretty cool. They're Orlando based. There's like what's it called? Total Punk. That's a great record label. They're in Orlando, but you'd never think Orlando would have a scene. Hey, Mike. Thank you. I've actually got a sick and wrong one on order from TeePublic, but this is just my spare room, which is now become devoted to podcrafting. Oh, I'm too mentally stable. You don't know what I'm really like. Oh, my mic isn't as loud as Dee's. Yeah, somebody saying my mic isn't as loud as yours, but also somebody said I am too mentally stable. It has been snowing, but the snow has not been laying here.
I think the mental
COVID
stability
time.
is actually a good thing, personally.
Well, yeah, because I show up on time.
Yeah, we actually start the show on time, and it's I'm not getting like a text message 10 minutes before we record being like, I'm too depressed to record, and can we just do it tomorrow? I'm off my medication. It was tough.
Well, yeah, I think anyone who has experience with addicts,
but
it can be.
Well, I mean, I think that part was tough, but it was always the other on the flip side, though, is you never knew what he got into. So, I mean, he would always have, like, he might have like OD'd at a McDonald's or something. And
there's only so many times you can hear that story, though. You're like, yeah, well done. You're a man in your 40s and you OD'd in a supermarket. Kind of sad.
Well, he doesn't have kids, so I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you don't have kids, you don't have anyone you're
that's very
responsible
true. And
for.
he's not married. He can do what the hell.
Yeah, he's not married. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
He could become a snake preacher. He'd probably actually be very good at that.
Being a snake preacher, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I bet you would be good. Can you hear my fucking cat?
I just heard him then, yeah.
Oh God, that motherfucker just woke up. Motherfucker just woke up, and now I gotta try to like wait for him to go back to bed before we can continue recording. Yeah. He's the worst. He's the
worst.
Oh, that cat sucks. You know, I shouldn't rename this video. I don't think I can edit it while we're doing it.
Oh, what? Change it from personal.
Yeah, because D. Simon's personal meeting room. Doesn't it sound like it's like, this is my JO video. This is where I do my jack off vids.
Yeah, something saucy's going on in your personal room.
My personal meeting room. This is where I do my jack off vids.
It's like you're a very posh child and it's like, Papa, I need a personal meeting room.
I wonder if I can edit it. I don't know
With
if I
my
can.
friends,
Let's see.
Papa.
You're gonna let me do it? Oh, it might.
What are you gonna change it to? You can change it to D. Simon's
Oh.
personal jack-off room.
D. Simon's personal jack off room.
Yeah.
Snake handlers.
For 10 gold shekels, he'll do anything you want.
All right. I don't know if it goes. Let's see. I think it went back.
Who put that? Was it you who put that picture up on? No, who put the picture up on Reddit of the sick and wrong skull caps? Or was that on Facebook?
Who put that
It's
up?
funny. There's a picture of the sick and wrong skull caps. Was it on Reddit or was it on the Facebook? You lose track of where you see them all. It was very funny.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
you
it was.
remember. Reddit.
What the fuck's this video? Having trouble seeing it here. Are you guys on Reddit? It's fucking crazy. The Reddit's definitely taken a life of itself here. Some of them are fucking nasty as shit.
It's good though, especially because like what Bestgar's been gone now. It's harder to get your kicks, so I'm enjoying it just because people are finding all this gross shit that normally I wouldn't see.
I think the difference is the way we record it. So it probably sounds different when we're doing it here live, but in post production, I usually level it out.
Oh yeah, our mic differences. Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking hate that fucking cat. I want to kill that cat.
Blackheart said, J.O. snake handling, same thing.
J.O. snake handling.
Handling. I nearly did the overkill about Jake the Snake, but I'm gonna save Jake the Snake for another time because he's got such a wild life, and I didn't have time to write a proper script this week. So, but I was gonna do Jake the Snake. Do you know anything about Jake the Snake?
Oh, Jake the Snake. Yeah, you know, my ex did because she did all those like Comic-Con convention things, and so she did a con in Modesto, California, and Jake the Snake sat at a booth right next to her, and she said he smelled terrible, looked like a fucking meth addict, like his skin was all like covered in lesions. Did she get his autograph? No, she didn't even know who he was.
What? It's Jake the fucking Snake. He invented the DDT.
Yeah, I mean he was a snake handler.
He's a real snake handler. Oh my god, he was one of my favorite childhood wrestlers. I love he bangs trannies. That's his thing. Loves banging trannies.
Jake the Snake bangs trannies.
Loves banging trannies. He's into it, man. But oh god, how can you not get his autograph? The man invented one of the most popular wrestling moves of all time.
When she told me about it, I'm like, what the fuck, Jake the Snake?
Yeah,
it's fucking amazing. And she's just like, he was gross. He smelled bad, and he looked like a homeless guy.
It's like, but it's Jake the Snake.
Yeah, no, that guy. He's always one of my favorite wrestlers as a kid.
Yeah, definitely one of mine. I've always liked all the dickheady kind of wrestlers, though. I never liked all the goody two shoes ones.
Do you remember that wrestler that was like the gay wrestler?
Goldust.
Goldust. Yeah, what was the deal with that guy?
Good wrestler though, technically a good wrestler. I can't remember his real name, but he had a few characters, but Goldust was his most popular.
But what would he do that made him like super gay?
Did you?
I can't even picture what he looks like.
He was gold. What, do you want me to share a screen?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
He was all
gold. I will show you.
But I mean, he was like covered in gold.
Yeah.
Look at that fat guy. He's
Yeah,
like looking for a snake. That's the other funny thing too about the South is how fat these guys are. Like everybody down there.
Justin Rhodes, that's it.
Was he really gay?
No.
So that was just his act.
He was just very flamboyant and like, yeah. Oh my god, he was oh no, that's somebody else. I was like,
wait. Oh, I was about to say Sergeant Slaughter isn't the same dude.
No, Sergeant Slaughter is somebody different. What would your wrestling name be? Mine would be the Goy Wonder. That's what Sophie said.
Goy Wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know. Two Live Jews.
Too
I would just be, I don't know. I'd probably be the Hebrew Hammer.
Oh, that's good. The Hebrew Hammer. I like it. Although that could be your special move.
Hebrew Hammer. Oh, yeah. If I like.
Hammer.
That'd be like my special move when I come down and just
Hebrew
hammer.
So your name could, I don't know. You're just gonna call yourself the Heb.
The bigger entrance was back in the dressing room. All right, I think he's gone to sleep, so we could do stories real quick and then wrap this up.
Okay.
All right, check.
Get mine ready.
Ready?
I am ready. Yeah.
So, the first story we have here is an emotionally moving story about some real garbage humans. It's like these are some garbage people. Garbage people from Michigan. A valuable human has lost his life, said a judge who sentenced a father to prison for his son's backyard pool drowning. It's happening in Grand Haven, Michigan. A former Grand Rapids Community College assistant professor has received his sentence recently for the backyard pool drowning death of his son. His name's Coates, 51 years old. What's his first name?
I was gonna say, is he called Coates?
No, his name is George Coates.
George Coates.
George Coates.
American. Yes.
God, yeah, George Coates. He was sentenced Monday, January 18th, to 2 to 15 years in prison on an involuntary manslaughter charge. So 2 is the minimum, 15 is the max. These charges stem from a March 2019 incident where George Coates' 16-year-old son, Samuel Coates, drowned in a backyard pool at the family's home in Grand Rapids. Mm-hmm. Now, according to the parents, Samuel, who has nonverbal autism, functions mentally at the level of a 13 to 17-month-old child.
Whoa. But
he has the physical strength of a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I think my mic just cut out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. That was weird.
Oh. I know, that was kind of odd. I don't know if that came from... let me see. Check. Yeah, that was weird. I don't know if it came from the editing or what. I'll have to repeat this. Very odd. All right. So according to the parents, Samuel, who has nonverbal autism, functions mentally at the level of a 13 to 17-month-old child, but he has the physical strength of a 16-year-old boy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he's got, strength of a teenager, but he's got the mindset of an infant.
Yeah. I'm wanting to say it and you're wanting to say it.
What, rotundo strength?
Yeah.
So the father here pled guilty in December to single counts of involuntary manslaughter, 4th-degree child abuse, and obtaining a controlled substance by fraud. Oh. He'll probably serve, 2 years, and then be released for teaching grammar classes to the inmates.
So it depends if he's a good boy in jail or not.
Well, I'm sure, for something like this, involuntary manslaughter, you're not going to get 15 years.
No.
Yeah, that's the max.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends if he is bad in jail, isn't it? That's the whole deal.
Yeah, I don't think this guy's going to be punking out other inmates. But who knows? It's like a Breaking Bad situation. Walter White here.
Give them the Hebrew Hammer.
So Coates' attorney called the situation a very unique and tragic case. He said that his client will have to live with the consequences of his actions for the rest of his life. He said, this is not blaming anybody here in terms of anyone's actions, but Sam is a very high needs child. He required 24/7 around the clock supervising and care. He was locked in that room in the house because of the way he destroyed everything else in all the other rooms. So he must have had like a locked little prison room, there was just probably like a padded room, no furniture or anything. Any furniture in there was nailed down. Because could you imagine having to deal with this?
We're both wanting to say it.
Well, as a sibling, if I lived in the house as a sibling, because there are two other kids. I mean, he had like, Samuel, 16 years old, but he has a 13-year-old and like a 18-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
She has two other kids. If this was my brother and I lived in the house with this guy, I would be padlocking my door.
You would be moving out as soon as you could, wouldn't you? At 18, you'd be out the door. I do feel sorry for siblings of.
Well, I mean, your brother. Well, the parents. You have no. You have no other choice. It's your child. You have. You have to take care of this kid. But as a sibling, you're just like, fuck. I was brought into this family, and now I got to deal with this. Your brother's a violent, violent, irrational, unpredictable rotundo with the mind of like a 17-month-old child.
Yeah,
but the body of a teenager.
Yeah.
Tundo strength.
It's like living with Hulk in a way, isn't it?
I guess in a sense. I mean, well, Hulk's probably a bit stronger than this 16-year-old rotundo, but maybe same kind of deal.
Do you know what I always found really funny about Hulk? One of his main moves was, that he could just, jump.
Oh, he could just leap.
He could jump from like Los Angeles and like arrive in New York.
He could jump that far, but he could probably jump from like Los Angeles to San Diego.
He could fucking jump. It's like, why is that one of his superpowers? I don't get it.
He's super strong.
Yeah.
Do you think when he wanked, do you think like, because what was the stuff? Wasn't? Yeah, but I mean, do you think his semen was green?
Yeah.
It probably was. Do you think it was radioactive?
Do you think even he had sex with She-Hulk, or do you think no one banged She-Hulk?
She-Hulk was a lesbian.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So she's not into the Hulk dick.
Anyway, so this Samuel here, has the mind of an infant, body of a teenager, and I have a theory. I think he might have become violent because his selfish mother stopped breastfeeding him.
At what age?
Well, I mean, he's an infant, so he's still, his 13-month-old thinks he's gonna. Yeah, in his mind, he's like, I want some bitty. And meanwhile, his mother cuts him off, and now he's 16, no bitty, and he just starts smashing shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, as we get into the details of what actually happened, I want everybody out there listening to ask yourself, is this worth 2 years in prison?
Okay.
So on the afternoon, March 28th, 2019, George Coates placed his son on the back deck of his home before he left for work to teach classes at the Grand Rapids Community College, where he was an assistant professor. So I'm sure he was earning a substantial income. Mm-hmm. And it's like one step above gym teacher at high school, like assistant professor at a community college.
Yeah, it's not
his mother, Samuel's mother, Michelle Coates, was asleep when the father left him. The son... So listen to how the dad left the son. So the son was left in the backyard with restraints wrapped around his body, keeping his arms restrained and tethered to the deck. So the dad put a straitjacket on this guy and like tethered him to the deck.
And tied his wheelchair to the deck.
I don't think he was in a wheelchair.
Oh, was he just sat? So he tied, it's kind of like, tying down Bond to interrogate him. At
some point, Samuel gravitated toward the pool, which was covered, and got inside. So I imagine he like somehow escaped the restraints, like some rotundo Houdini.
Yeah.
And then like got out of the straitjacket and went straight for the pool, which had to have been freezing. I mean, it's March, Michigan. Mm-hmm. I mean, so there's snow. I'm sure it was freezing temperatures. So I don't even know why he would tie the boy to the deck outside. Was he hoping he'd freeze to death or something?
Yeah, it seems a bit odd. You must know it's cold and like, why would you not tie him up inside? Or why are you not waking up your mum to be like, it's your turn now?
Yeah, you look after him.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the mom was probably drunk, passed out on pills.
Yeah.
So Coates' 18-year-old daughter came home and she saw her brother Samuel in the pool. It was cold. There was ice in the pool. Whoa. She took police. She went around the house yelling for her mother or anyone else, but no one answered. So she just left to go make a TikTok video. I'm lying about the TikTok video, but I'm assuming she probably did that.
Did she go to the mall? Yeah.
But I mean, could you imagine? Like she's sitting there, like, Mom, Sammy's in the pool again. You got to go deal with this.
Yeah.
And then she like just was like, well, no one's answering. Fuck it, I'm gonna take off, go to the ball.
Yeah. Why didn't she help him?
I don't know. I mean, you got your rotundo brother in a straitjacket in a freezing cold pool. And
Well,
you
I
just
would not be surprised if she did not like him.
No, I don't think anyone in the house liked this kid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a menace. Like going and having like tantrums and like smashing everything in the room.
Yeah. Well, even beyond that, it's hard, isn't it? Because
It's a burden.
it is a burden, and you're not going to have any attention from your parents from the day he is born now. So she probably resented him and did not like him.
So after this, Coates asked his 13-year-old daughter if she had returned from school yet, and they asked her to go check on the freak, which was the affectionate family name they had for the kid.
Yeah. Jesus.
I wonder if everyone just called him freak.
They probably did. Yeah, probably.
So the daughter sent a photo of her brother in the pool to her dad. So she looked up from watching TV on the couch for like, I don't know, a minute, snapped a photo with her iPhone and just sends that to the dad, texts it to the dad, which is insane.
Yeah.
You got your mentally disabled brother in a straitjacket in sub-zero degree temperature in a pool, and you just don't even do anything about it. So the dad was just like instructed the daughter to pull him out. Like text her back being like, well, pull him out, you dumb bitch. He's going to freeze to death. So she tried, and then she informed her dad that the brother was stuck. The father said to yell at him to come back and get out of the pool. She said she thinks he's stuck, and she sent another photo showing her brother in chest deep water in the pool.
Yeah.
Moments later, he says, pull his testicles out. So I was wondering about this because like, I don't know if I was wondering, like, does he expect her to get into the pool, grab him by the balls and pull him out? Or this might be the only way to calm him down and control him is squeezing his testicles.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this family had some type of like chastity belt iPhone app on this kid that they could control with their iPhone. So when Freak is having a violent episode, they like open up their iPhone, press the apps, and it squeezes his nuts till he's in so much pain that he's got to sit down.
Did the Hulk ever have his nuts kicked or anything like that? You think that would be the Hulk's weakness? Nuts. Yeah, you'd think that would be the Hulk's weakness as well, would be a swift kick to the nuts.
Yeah, I mean, he had to have probably really strong nuts.
Yeah, so I wonder if that, I think the two are there's definitely a theory here, dear Simon.
I think I might actually make this app. Don't you think this could
in
the S&M community? Don't you think something like this would be
done? Can you not remember recently there was that news story about the guy who
with the chastity belt?
Yeah. So this is the same thing, isn't it?
Well,
you want it specifically for the testicles.
Well, I'm saying this is like something your Dom who's like maybe on Zoom or something because of COVID, she can just like press the button and squeeze your nuts.
That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, metaphorically. So yeah, the father's like, squeeze his nuts and get him out of the pool. And so she couldn't do it. She could do it. And so he's like, go wake up your mom and then get her to help you get the kid out of the pool.
Squeeze his nuts, yeah.
And so the mom ended up getting up and they got Sammy out of the pool, but he ended up collapsing and drowning in the freezing water.
Yeah.
So the prosecution said that incidents like this, where Samuel's left completely unattended or tied up or tethered, occurred very often. And he said, let me be clear. This child was in no way able to care for himself, but he was routinely left unattended. There are 15 occasions where Child Protective Services were summoned to the home, primarily because Sam was unattended and had escaped out of the residence.
Wow. And they weren't doing, after 15 times, they still weren't doing anything.
What's sad about this is if it's just like, a single mother that has to deal with this kid and everything, I can understand that happening, but this is a whole family. You got an 18-year-old daughter, you got a 13-year-old daughter, you got a father, and you got a mother, and none of them can keep watch of the rotundo.
Yeah, 15 times. Come on.
And
I think it would get to the point where they would put him in like a respite care or something, couldn't they?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, wouldn't you put him in like a care home
Yeah.
or a care facility?
Ridiculous.
I mean, they probably had padlocks on the inside of the door, like inside the house to keep him in.
I imagine they will have done.
But the kids probably just didn't give a shit, so they never locked it. And he would just get out. And the neighbors probably just hated him. Because, I mean, he's violent, obviously. But a kid like this should have been put in a proper care facility, unless they could hire a 24/7 keeper. You know, if you had a keeper.
On an assistant professor's salary.
With 3 children. He has 3 children. He's a community college assistant professor. This, if there's a takeaway from this whole story, it's wear a condom, people.
It is.
Just wear a condom.
Don't have children. There's the takeaway. If you're a shitty person, don't have a child.
The father said that he and the family learned to manage Samuel's autism as best they could. But I mean, at some point, the family becomes completely desensitized.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. 16 years, you're just dealing with this all the time. And I'm sure their behavior, like calling him freak and tying him to the deck and all this, seems a bit callous to the outsiders. But it's not easy dealing with this.
No, I could
in a situation like this.
For any of them. But there are like right and wrong things to do. And at no point would I ever think, oh, it's snowing outside. Let me tether my disabled son out here whilst I go to work. That seems about right.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to give, side with these parents or try to justify anything that they did because they are garbage humans.
Yeah.
And the whole family is just garbage people. But at the same time, it's like I do feel empathy for them that, they have tried to deal with this. I'm sure they're desensitized to their behavior towards him. They probably call him freak out of just sheer frustration.
Yeah.
With trying to deal with something like this. Coates said, and during the trial, he said, the words I used were not good, referring to calling his son a freak. But it was a way of blowing off steam. And I'm not excusing myself for that, but I would never harm or abuse Sam. I would never have done that to any of my children. My home has always been a place filled with love and compassion. You called him a freak and tied him to the deck in a straitjacket.
Yeah.
You just told your daughter to grab him by his nuts and pull him out of the pool. Yeah, I don't know how compassionate that is. His wife was sentenced to 21 days in jail for a misdemeanor charge of obtaining a controlled substance by false representation. Apparently, the couple continued to refill their son's Ritalin prescription 8 months after he died.
Oh, my word.
Garbage human.
See, that's what the mum was doing. I bet the mum was like 5 days a week off her nut on Ritalin. She was probably crushing it up and snorting it, and then 2 days in bed. Constantly.
Packs a good high. It's kind of like blowing away.
It's do enough of it.
Yeah, do enough of it. I wonder if what other pills they had for this kid, because he must have been all sorts of tranquilizers.
Yeah, and all sorts.
And I'm sure the
antipsychotics as well. I would imagine.
Yeah, but I bet you like the mom and dad were like popping pills left and right. It's like he got probably Xannies. I'm sure there were Vicodins. Yeah, I mean, they were probably like having a splendid time. Coates here, the father had been a full-time GR Grand Rapids Community College faculty member since 2000, 2007, 2008 academic year. His termination was effective January 28th, 2020. The college actually notified him 3 days after he was arraigned and the death of his son that he was terminated. The father said in closing here that we learned a lot of lessons. We made a lot of mistakes. It's families with special needs children who are frightened. They're desperate. They don't know where to turn. And I feel like we can provide an opportunity to help because of what my family has been through. So what's happening here? Are you going to be consultants now? Rotundo relations?
Help? Yeah, Rotundo relations. Is he going to come over and squeeze your Rotundo child's testicles?
Yeah, are they going to like offer
Control.
seminars on like, we'll teach you how to tie a knot securely so they'll stay tethered to the deck post in their straitjacket. We'll help you come up with a catchy nickname for your rotundo child.
The mum is going to teach you how to crush up and snort Ritalin 25 times a day.
We'll show you how to keep their prescriptions going months after their death.
Yeah, don't you worry, guys. We've got it. Rotunda relation.
Great family. Garbage humans.
I agree.
Anyway, what do you have here for the second story?
I have a very British story for the second story. And it's from the Metro. And it's Grandad dragged from fish and chip shop and beaten to death by stranger demanding 20 quid.
At a chippy.
At a chippy? Oh my God. Vicious folk who beat a man to death in the street over £20 has been jailed for life. Christopher Walton, 24, was loitering outside the 7 Acres fish and chip shop in Bolton. Say it with me, Dee. What do you think Bolton is?
In Bolton.
Yeah, it's a shithole.
Oh, is it a shithole?
It is probably.
Where is Bolton?
Bolton's Greater Manchester. It's just outside Manchester. Okay. In the kind of like, the top tier of like 1 to 5 of shitholes, I would probably put Bolton at 2 or 3.
Oh, so wait, is one being the worst or one being like not a shithole?
Being like, yeah, one is like, I haven't decided what the biggest shithole in Britain is yet. But Bolton's definitely like 2nd or 3rd on the list.
Wow. So it's pretty high up there in shithole towns.
It's fucking awful. Like, oh my God, if you live in Bolton, I feel sorry for you. Leave. He's dressed all in Bolton. He was dressed in all black on July 13th last year. We've all done that, been dressed all in black outside the chippy.
It's like every day. Well, not outside chippy, but.
Well, I've definitely been doing that. As Christopher Hardman, 45, and a Fred tried to enter, the assailant stopped him, dragged him back out onto the street and said, "You got my fucking 20 bar?" He then launched a merciless attack on his target, punching him in the head and knocking him unconscious before rifling through his pockets.
All right. A couple things need some clarification here. First of all, a chippy is like a Long John Silver's, right? It's like you go there, you get fried fish and chips.
They're usually not restaurants. They're usually like takeaways. And it's fish and chips.
It's fish and chips. And it's old school fish and chips. They'd like wrap it in newspaper. It's just greasy and there's malt vinegar.
Yeah, very rare they do the newspaper thing anymore. But there's
the rabbi loved that. That was a thing in
British.
Yeah, in South Africa. Growing up in South Africa, like in Cape Town and all that, we'd always go to the chippy. Like and it was like old school chippy wrapped in newspaper. Just fucking, how bad is that for you? That food?
It's bad, but it is very much
it's a great hangover food.
It is. So what would your dad order? Can you remember?
It's just like 2 pieces of fish and French fries just covered in vinegar.
They're not French fries.
Chips.
They're
chips. Fish and chips.
They're
okay, so that's the first thing you clarified. A chippy is a local chip shop. What's a 20 bar?
20 bar. Bar is just slang for money.
Oh, for quid? So he just wanted 20 quid?
20 bar. Yeah. We say bar.
So he beat a guy for $20.
A granddad. A 45-year-old granddad. You're also glossing over that part.
Third thing we need to clarify. So I'm older than this grandfather, by the way.
Yes.
Just had a birthday, 46. And
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty on the DL about my birthdays. Try to make people forget that I age, but you can tell. Just look at me. Just look at me. But anyway, I'm 46 years old, and according to this, I'm older than the grandfather of this story.
Yeah, Bolton. Your granddad probably at the age of 16 down there. Shithole.
That is a sign of a shithole.
Walton from Bolton left his victim momentarily, but returned when he started to show signs of regaining consciousness, kicking and stamping on his head repeatedly and leaving him to die. Walton, from Bolton, who admitted murder, was told by a judge that anyone who watched the CCTV footage would struggle to understand how one human being could descend to such brutal violence. They also have such flowery language, the judges, don't they?
I know, and then they admonish you. The one thing I don't get about this is like he just wanted 20 quid. So why don't the guy just be like, here, take 20 quid and bugger off,
I think it's an alpha male thing definitely coming through. We get more into it. So Manchester's Minshull Street Crown Court heard how Mr. Hardman gave the defendant all of the money that he had on him, but that didn't stop him asking for more. CCTV shown to the court shows Walton from Bolton inflicting a merciless series of stamps and blows and treating his body like a rag doll. Prosecutors said the level of violence used was in order to provide a spectacle to the victim's associates.
So he was being alpha. So this guy, the victim, was with someone else. What was the other guy doing?
He was probably getting his chippy tea.
Yeah, but I mean, no, but was he getting his chippy while his friend was getting his ass beat?
I tell you what, I'd be so pissed off if someone was like, "Oh, do you want to go to the chip shop tonight?" Because once a year I'll go to the chippy. It's like because it is very unhealthy for you. So you get psyched up for it because you're like, yeah, fish and chips. I really can't wait for this. And then if you got there and suddenly a fight's breaking out and you can't have your chippy tea, I would be so gutted. And then the police are here and like, oh, you've got to go for all that rigmarole. I'd be like, I just wanted fish and chips and mushy peas.
Yeah, I'm surprised that was it okay? So was the assailant also with another were these guys chavs?
Yes.
Very chavvy.
Bolton.
Okay.
Bolton is basically just chavs only.
That's where chavs come from.
Yes, they probably has existed there before time. There has been a chav in Bolton. Police were called to the scene and they found Mr. Hardman was unconscious and he was bleeding heavily. It turns out that Mr. Hardman wasn't such a hard man after all, because he was taken to Salford Royal Hospital, and despite the best efforts on the medical staff, he died on July the 21st.
Oh, that's terrible. This guy just wanted to get some fish and chips. He gets attacked by some asshole chavs and beaten to death.
He was just in the wrong place.
The wrong time.
Do you get it? You won't get it because you don't have chippies. The wrong place, like the fish.
The wrong place. All right. This is totally going over my Yankee head. I don't get this British humor. Is this like a Monty Python reference or something?
The wrong place. Yeah, whatever. A post-mortem report found he suffered a serious brain injury, a jaw fracture, a fractured eye socket, and blunt force wounds to his cheekbone and nose. He was battered.
Oh, man.
Do you get it?
Oh, he was battered. Okay. He was battered. All right.
Walton.
Fucking English.
From Bolton. Was arrested the day after the attack, and he gave no fucking comment on an interview telling officers that could have fucking been anyone when shown the CCTV car footage. This guy's got big brains, you can tell. The court heard how Mr. Hardman had battled addiction in his life, and in a victim personal statement, his dear old mum, Lynn, said that Chris had a warm and lovely heart. He loved heroin. He made friends with people easily. And he was a respectful and polite adult. He didn't
just beat a man to death in front of a chippy.
No, this is it. This is the guy who died. This is
okay.
About her heroin addict son. He didn't always make the best choices, but he was a much-loved junkie son, a junkie brother, a junkie father, a junkie grandfather, a junkie nephew, a junkie cousin, and a junkie friend.
I mean, that is kind of crazy that at the age of 45, he was like a father and a grandfather and a junkie.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Sentencing him to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years to serve. Judge Anthony Cross said, "The Crown are right to describe this as a merciless series of stamps and blows. What makes your conduct even more grave is to be found in the fact that you would leave the prone body of your victim and then return to it to inflict more harm. I am satisfied that you were somehow demonstrating to your so-called associates how vicious you could be. After you had finished with him, you left him for dead."
Oof. Yeah. Drunken thuggery going on.
The story
here.
doesn't end there.
Ooh.
Did you hear what they named the newest fish and chip shop in town?
No. What is it?
The new cod on the block. Wait, D, right. Why did the wife of the fish and chips fetishist file for divorce?
Why?
She was sick of being a battered woman.
All right, these are terrible.
D, right, D.
This is the last one.
A man walks into the library and he asks, "Can I have some fish and chips, please?" The librarian replies, "Sir, this is a library. Oh, I'm really sorry, says the man. Can I have some fish and chips?
All right, this is terrible. We're done. We're done with this. This reminds me of so years ago when I was in college, one of my roommates, who I think we've mentioned on the show here, is the guy that would piss. Like he was a drunk
Oh,
peer.
yes, you have mentioned the drunk.
Yeah, when he would get drunk, he would just pee on things. But he was a pretty horrible drunk. Not like a horrible drunk that, well, he would get aggressive too. But I remember one time we were at this bar called the Touchdown Cafe, which is a terrible bar in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah.
A terrible sports bar, but they had an amazing happy hour. We could get like a pitcher of beer for like $4.
Oh, nice. That'd be
a pitcher. Yeah. So I don't know, we probably had like 6, so we were wasted. And Eric went outside to smoke, and there were a couple like teens, like teen chavvy type teens, no, I don't know if they're gutter punks. Maybe. They're probably more like of the We Grow variety, gangstas. And so they're hanging out, and one of them like asked him for a cigarette, and Eric just kind of like said like, "And why don't you go fucking get a job and buy your own or something?" And the dude's like said something back to him like, "Well, fuck you." And then Eric like got all macho, went up to him, and was like, "You want to go?" And this kid, this like 16-year-old, and Eric must have been like, I don't know, probably 21, 22, just punched Eric right in the face and just broke his eye socket.
Oh, gnarly.
we were all, and so the whole time we were thinking like, should we go fight these juvenile delinquents?
No.
Or actually Eric deserved this. You didn't have to mouth off to these fucking kids. You could have just been like, you could have been, when they asked you for a cigarette, been like, "Oh no, sorry, I'm out."
Yeah.
But instead you're drunk and you're an asshole, and now you have a broken eye socket. So he had to have like these wires that had to hold his eye socket together in front of his eye. He had like 3 wires for like 6 months.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
To like cure his eye. Yeah, because it was like fractured so badly.
It
ended up being fine. Yeah, it ended up being fine. And the funniest thing about it is when that kid, it's like, 15, 16-year-old kid punched him and did that, Eric just dropped like a sack of potatoes holding his eye. And this kid felt so bad. He was just like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay?" Yeah, because I don't think he realized that was going to happen.
Yeah, he didn't think how strong he would be, what his punch would be like. Wow. That isn't.
He didn't just batter him like a rag doll, though.
No.
He didn't do that. Jesus. It's fucking vicious. Vicious chavs in England.
I liked the librarian joke the most.
Those were, it was A-list British humor going on there.
I'm going to become a stand-up comedian.
I kind of want fish and chips now, though.
Anyway,
people, send your stories, stickeronpodcast@gmail.com. We have some phone calls coming up next. 323-522-4032 is that number. But first, here's a word from Adam and Eve. All right. That is about it. That is about it.
Some good puns there. The Codfather.
So we recorded the phone calls.
Yeah, sorry.
He's with Cotton. Oh my God. We ended up doing the phone calls, pre-recording it, so you guys are not going to get to listen to it. Although I don't know if they could hear phone calls.
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
Well, actually, you probably could, because I can play the calls here. So maybe we'll do that next time.
Yeah, we'll do the whole show next time.
Yeah, but this time you got the intro, and you got some phone calls.
Stories.
Anyway. Oh yeah, stories, not phone calls. But the phone calls were really good this week.
They
were saucy. They were saucy.
Very saucy.
Yeah, I think my favorite one is the one with about the toothpick.
No, my favorite one was from Anne.
Oh yeah. There's a Bob Madigan call.
Yeah,
there's a Bob Madigan call that's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. So people, you want to check that out. I wonder how you stop this thing.
I don't know. Thanks everyone.
Thank you everybody.
Yeah, have a good day.
I gotta figure out how to stop the live stream. All right.